Sam Darnold signs a 3-year deal worth close to $100 million.
The Jets have a new quarterback. It is Justin Fields.
Rusell Wilson is signing with the New York Giants.
Daniel Jones is signing with the Indianapolis Colts.
The New York Giants have agreed to a 2-year, $8 million deal with Jameis Winston.
The quarterback carousel is a cold, lonely place. Coughed out into the world, the unwanted passer is forced to claim a horse. Hold on tight, an agent whispers in their ear, and suddenly they begin rotating around bright lights and modest bidding wars until some team that can't ever get it right decides, well, nothing else has worked. How's 30 million sound? Everyone agrees, that sounds great. But then a year later, they're right back in the same place, unwanted again. After a while, that same quarterback may start recognizing the guys waiting in line to claim next year's horse. Oh, what up, Sam? Mason, glad to see you're back. Jimmy, Jacoby, a pleasure. Just don't become too attached. Before you know it, your good friend Tyler Huntley might have lost his way to the ride, suddenly unsigned and untalked about throughout the start of free agency. Every now and then, someone makes it out. Baker Mayfield was one such pup to sign a 1-year deal with Tampa Bay in 2023 and then turn it into a $100 million forever home over the next 3. But more often than not, these quarterback mutts are left howling at the moon. Baker's winning record, playoff victory, the 9th most passing yards in the league, and 28 touchdowns to 10 interceptions should be viewed as an exception. Because, more often than not, you're getting something like a Kirk Cousins collapse from last year, an underwhelming Derek Carr season in 2023, a Mitch Trubisky depression hole in 2022, or a Ryan Fitzpatrick career-ending injury in the first game of the 2021 season. What I'm saying is, for every Tampa Bay Baker Mayfield, there are 5 Washington Commanders Carson Wentz's. And there's a reason for that. See, NFL teams are desperate to find a quarterback. Once they find one, they usually pay them to stick around, and sometimes they don't even have to be good. Just look at Trevor Lawrence.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
If you've got a ticket to the carousel, chances are you've been pretty bad at your job lately. Maybe you've been bad at it forever. Oh, hey Tim Boyle. So look, most of these signings will be pointless. If we're lucky, we'll get one guy to stick around as the starter the season after. But the rest of them? Just extra slop to fill the NFL's yearly content cycle. The quarterback carousel, in actuality, is just a fancy named ritual for the rudderless. I took a look at the past 10 spins of the carousel, filtering for guys who were signed with the intention of being the starting quarterback. The average guy on this list was good for 8.5 wins and 8.2 losses across their entire tenure with their new team. That means most of these free agents signed to be QB1 will last just over 16 games total at their new destination. And a bulk of that is weighted by Tom Brady's 50 games for Tampa Bay and Kirk Cousins' 87 for Minnesota. These guys are far and away the exceptions to the regular QB carousel experience. When we remove their outlier data points, the average carousel QB lasts only 12.2 games, 5.7 wins, and 6.5 losses. So, while the MetLife faithful hope they're rallying around Justin Fields or Rusell Wilson for a late December playoff push, history says they'll probably be on the sideline by then. But as much as I'd like to be the emo NFL fan, dressed in all black save for the shield on my chest, saying, you know none of this actually matters, right? I'm not actually that guy. So, let's take a look at the 3 biggest free agent quarterback stories from this offseason and gauge what chance these new QBs have for turning their new city into a permanent residence. Sam Darnold was the belle of the quarterback ball this carousel season. After the Seahawks dealt Geno Smith to Las Vegas, they snatched up another New York Jets castoff for 3 years and $100 million, and $55 million of that guaranteed. Reports are always sure to mention that the move made Seattle younger and cheaper at quarterback, which, yeah, it did, but if you're Sam, you'd probably prefer everyone was saying they got better at the position. On paper, Darnold was one of the best quarterbacks in the league last year. He threw for the 5th most yards, had the 6th best passer rating, and dropped in 35 touchdowns to just 11 interceptions while on his way to winning 14 games with the Vikings. Unfortunately, Darnold's final 2 games weren't just played on paper, they were played in isolated primetime spots. He completed just 43 of his 81 passes for 411 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception in 2 back-to-back blowout losses. The worry is that 2024 was just a fairy tale story for Darnold, all the way down to the clock striking midnight and him losing his powers. Those last 2 games make any data point you want to highlight seem flimsy. Like, one of the biggest knocks on Darnold throughout his career has been his decision-making under pressure. This past year, he graded as the 7th best quarterback in these situations, a major improvement to where he's typically landed. But is that something you're really going to bring up when tape of those last 2 games exists? That's where we're at with Darnold and the Seahawks. Was what we saw for most of the year just the new Sam, or was it just a blip? Because of how he got to Seattle, Darnold's next couple years will be marred with comparisons to Geno Smith. There's a chance that halfway through the year, the Seahawks realized just how much Geno was covering some of their offensive deficiencies. Just zooming in on Seattle's pass protection, Mina Kimes called out how over the past 3 years, Smith faced quick pressure at a rate of 18.1%, the highest rate in the NFL. While Seattle signed tackle Josh Jones and could take a lineman in the draft, there's reason to believe Darnold will be under duress more often than he was last season. So, was that improvement against pressure really him? Or was it just due to the Vikings and head coach Kevin O'Connell's clever scheming? We should have our answer by November. For what it's worth, Seattle said they weren't planning to move off Smith this year, but extension talks stalled immediately. I don't think the Seahawks feel like they got their guy in Darnold so much as they found someone who could proficiently replace the old guy and who they hope might be even better. So, what we're seeing is minor improvements without a ton of commitment. Make a few light improvements to the line and bring in a guy like Cooper Kupp so Darnold isn't totally stranded out there, but I think this season is more of a 1-year proof of concept than it is the first year of Seattle's Sam era. Does anybody know if Justin Fields is good? No, seriously. He's a prism, a kaleidoscope, a metaphor for seeing what you want to see. He's simultaneously one of the best athletes in the sport with a rocket arm who hasn't been given a chance to fully lead an offense, and one of the worst processors in the league who's already flamed out in 2 spots at just 26 years old. The New York Jets, who signed him for 2 years and $40 million with $30 million of that guaranteed, hope he's the former. New head coach Aaron Glenn recently spoke on some of the criticism surrounding Fields, saying, "That's everybody else's opinion. I think he's able to process well when he's given the opportunity." In Zach Rosenblatt's piece for The Athletic, where he references this quote, he calls out how often Glenn used a version of the phrase, "when given the opportunity," when talking about Fields. For a guy picked 11th overall and who has over 40 starts to his name across 4 seasons, you could argue he's gotten plenty of opportunity. Of course, Glenn is talking more specifically about what Fields has been asked to do as a quarterback. But then you're right back to what a college student would call the dichotomy of Justin Fields. Is he not showing all he's capable of because his teams haven't allowed him to do so? Or are they not giving him full control because he isn't actually capable of it? His last season with the Steelers was the embodiment of these 2 perspectives. Starting in place of an injured Rusell Wilson for the first 6 games of the year, Fields went 4-2 while playing the most efficient football of his career as a passer, nabbing new bests in completion percentage, passer rating, and interception rate. But a lot of these good signs emerged from the fact Pittsburgh wanted to minimize as much risk as possible. Whether it was not throwing a single pass in the middle of the field in week 1, or having the 26th highest average yards per attempt, the Steelers wanted Fields to march the ball down the field methodically and safely in the beginning of the year. But as the season progressed, Pittsburgh started giving him a little more freedom, and he began begging to give the ball away with bad or pre-planned decisions. Fields got a rare middle-class contract as a quarterback, not quite legitimate starter money, but too much to be backup money either. He still has all the potential in the world, but hasn't proven it yet, so the number seems reasonable to me. He'll come into a situation with solid skill players, a decent line, and a defense that wants to return to form. For a culture reset after the disastrous Aaron Rodgers era, you can't do much better than Justin Fields. Everywhere he's been, his teammates have rallied around him, all the while he's shown an ability to grow and be coachable. There are 0 questions on Fields, the person. The passer, though? The jury is still very much out. I'm rooting for the guy, but I'm pessimistic it'll ever click for him as a starter. Don't be surprised if we see Fields back at the carousel a couple seasons from now. Rusell Wilson is like the baby a couple has to save their marriage. See, it's like Brian Daboll and his beautiful groom, GM Joe Schoen, had this amazing relationship in 2022. Right around the same time, Daboll met Schoen's good friend, Daniel Jones. Is this making sense? Should I keep going with this analogy? So, after a magical year and even better vacation in Minneapolis in 2022, Daboll and Schoen realize their relationship is starting to decay. Each year is a little worse than the last until they're just a 3-win family unsure of what to do next. Until one night, Schoen comes home late and tells Daboll what he'd been suspecting all along. It was Daniel Jones. He's the reason everything is falling apart in New York for them. Maybe Schoen cheated on Daboll with Jones, he's never quite sure. He just makes out that Schoen paid him $160 million to keep quiet, but now it's eating him up so much he had to come clean. They decide to jettison Jones far away from their relationship to start rebuilding it, and soon after, they think maybe a baby will bring them closer and rekindle the excitement they felt together 3 long years ago. Rusell Wilson is that baby, the Giants are the relationship they're trying to rebuild. New York, as it stands currently before the draft, is returning 10 of their 11 starters from their 31st ranked offense last year. The only difference, their new baby boy. Okay, it's a little more nuanced than that. Malik Nabers is a budding star who should only get better in his second year, and the team found some success rushing the ball towards the latter half with rookie running back Tyrone Tracy Jr. The idea is more so that these young guys will perform better and grow faster with a competent quarterback. Russ Wilson, for all the shit he gets, is still a capable starter with lots of experience playing in big moments and leading locker rooms. And when you compare his last season to Jones's, you see a guy who is better at consistently pushing the ball downfield, matching DJ's completion percentage but throwing for nearly 1.5 yards more per attempt and a 15-point better passer rating. But even with that, there are some quotes that make you feel like the team is doing a little too much to pin their failures on Jones. At annual league meetings this offseason, Schoen said he believed their offensive line was playing well enough to win prior to starting left tackle Andrew Thomas's injury. This is despite the fact they were 2-4 at the time and giving up the 27th most pressures in the league. It's almost like they're overcompensating. No, babe, I don't think about Daniel Jones at all. I just want you to understand that he's the whole reason everything fell apart. As for me, I think the Giants will be better this year, and a portion of that will be because of Rusell Wilson, but there's still plenty of concerns. Wilson was a revelation when he first entered the Steelers lineup after injury, but ended his tenure there by losing 5 in a row. Without the threat of Pickens, Wilson's boomer-bust approach when it comes to passing the ball began producing a whole lot less boom! And that's been the book on Wilson for a while now. He can hit the layups, he can pull up from the logo for a deep shot, but there's very little in the way of mid-range looks in the middle of the field. Whether it's because he's just not comfortable in that part of the field, or he literally can't see it due to his height. It presents a possible redemption arc for Daboll, the one-time quarterback whisperer teaches an old dog new tricks and gets the Giants back into the postseason, but I think the smart money would be on Wilson being set in his ways. The Giants will get a boost from him in the beginning of the year, only to be found out by week 6 or so. And based on the unique way New York structured Wilson's contract, with a low base salary and lopsided signing bonus, it seems the Giants may be preparing for exactly that scenario, turning Wilson into trade bait later in the year for a desperate team if things aren't working out. On the bright side, that means we'll probably get a nice dose of Jameis Winston later in the season. Outside of these big 3, there are a few other free agent quarterback stories to keep an eye on. One of my personal favorites to watch will be what happens with Daniel Jones in Indianapolis. Like we talked about in the last section, it was clear that he'd worn out his welcome in New York, and a stop in Minnesota for the back half of the year might have helped get some of that bad taste out of his mouth from before, or at least that's the theory. He'll get to compete with Anthony Richardson, who I was actually pretty high on prior to last season when he showed he couldn't really complete a pass. It's tough to be an NFL quarterback when you can't do that. He's still only 22 years old, something I think that needs to continue to be mentioned whenever he's brought up, but it does feel as if Indy is losing some patience with him. At the very least, DJ is going to get a very real chance to compete to be the starter. This will be the best quarterback battle going into training camp this season. One of my personal least favorites to watch will be however this Aaron Rodgers saga concludes. Every week there's some new Aaron Rodgers feature, and I just couldn't give any less of a shit. Like, I get it already. Rodgers and his agent would love for him to play in Minnesota. The only problem is I don't think the Vikings like him back like that. So instead we'll just get vague quotes from everybody because nobody wants to offend anyone else. And then the Steelers are essentially playing chicken with the guy. After Rodgers reportedly did some offseason throwing with their new receiver DK Metcalf, Pittsburgh's owner Art Rooney said, "It was good that Rodgers wanted to do that, and we keep hearing that Rodgers is heading in our direction. All signs are positive so far." It all sounds so passive. I imagine whoever gets Rodgers, the celebration after he signs will be less "hell yeah" and a lot more "alright, fine." As for the backups, I love to see that Mac Jones is getting the Sam Darnold treatment in San Francisco. I can already see the collective amnesia next offseason when everyone says, "You know, he was pretty good that first year, and look at how Darnold came out after spending a year with Shanahan." Zach Wilson became a Dolphin, so if you're a son or daughter in Miami, be on the lookout for mom to suddenly be in a much better mood. Trey Lance went to the Chargers, and it's a moment to savor because it's unclear how long we'll do this song and dance with him. Eventually he's gonna have to play, right? Mason Rudolph went back to the Steelers, and he remains the most irrelevant and worst quarterback in the league that continues to pique my interest. I don't know why. Joe Flacco is back in Cleveland, and I have a sneaking suspicion this time around will be a lot less fun, but flack it, anything so I don't have to watch Kenny Pickett. And somehow, Tim Boyle keeps getting jobs. Every year, the quarterback carousel spins. And the main story is always who's riding it and all the different destinations they could get off at. But once the music stops and that free agent has signed, the team often slips into a transition year where their new guy plays 12 games and wins 5 of them. And then everyone's right back where they started. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please remember to give it a like if you did enjoy it and consider subscribing to the channel so you can catch the next one. Thanks, bye.